Hello everyone, and welcome to another Pyro Gaming video. It's a new week, which means there are new vendor weapons to take a look at. Let's go ahead and jump right in, starting with the Crucible. For those of you who enjoy Crucible pulse rifles with similar archetypes to the Hawksaw, the B29 party favor this week is worth taking a look at for sure. Comes with rangefinder, braced frame, or feather mag, with braced frame being the one that you want to choose, as well as secret round or life support. Both of these could be really good in the Crucible. Side options, you have MD Reflex, Sure Shot IS, which is the one that you want to go with, and the OEG. Altogether, this is going to be a very solid Crucible pulse rifle, definitely worth picking up. This week's hero formula is one worth taking a look at, which is something that I never thought I would say because I'm not a fan of this archetype at all for scout rifles. But this week's roll comes with Firefly, Explosive Rounds, and Outlaw. It is a Fatebringer roll on a scout rifle, and it could be worth picking up if you are a fan of this archetype. Side options, we have Red Dot ORA2, Range Lens RLR5, as well as OEG Rifle Scope. I would probably go with either one of these, because they're the only ones that really give you any kind of boost to stats. This one probably being just a little bit better. But yeah, if you're a fan of this archetype, Outlaw, Explosive Rounds, and Firefly, it's going to be relatively fun, although I will say that Explosive Rounds is going to hinder these two perks just a little bit, so you might want to stick with Perfect Balance. But it's all up to you. Worth trying out if you're a fan of this archetype for PvE. Surprise, surprise, the Palindrome makes the list yet again. As I've said in the past, there really isn't a bad Palindrome roll, so this weapon probably will be in the list each and every week. It's just a matter of you finding the right perk set that matches your playstyle. This week, the perks for the Palindrome are Reactive Reload, Small Bore or High Caliber Rounds, Mulligan or Icarus. We also have Steady Hand IS, Sure Shot IS, which is the better of the three, and Quick Draw IS. Now for this Palindrome, if you like to shoot while in the air and bounce around like an asshole in the Crucible, then Icarus is going to be the perk that you want to choose. If you don't like to do that, by all means stick with Mulligan. Mulligan is a really good perk to have on hand cannons, especially ones that only have a 9-round magazine. Small bore and high caliber rounds, this one's going to come down to preference. Small bore will drop your magazine size down to 8, and high caliber rounds will stagger your enemies in the Crucible, which is the one that I would prefer to have, honestly. Instead of small bore, I would go high caliber rounds, because it makes you harder to shoot, essentially, if you're hitting your target. And lastly, we have Reactive Reload. Reloading this weapon after a kill grants damage bonus for a short time. You get a kill, you reload, you start shooting again, and on your next kill, if you land headshots with these two perks, you could potentially 2-tap in the Crucible if you land both precisions. This is not the best Palindrome roll in the world by any means, but it's definitely worth trying out if you're a fan. If you are looking for a Crucible shotgun, the 44 Curtain Call could be worth taking a look at, coming with Final Round, Small Bore, Quick Draw, Performance Bonus, Battle Runner. Muzzle options, we have Linear Compensator, CQB, and Aggressive. I would stick with Linear Compensator here because everything else decreases your range. Combine that with Performance Bonus to get some free special ammo occasionally in the Crucible when you get a kill with this weapon, and combine that again with Small Bore and Final Round, and you have yourself a pretty decent Crucible shotgun. What I would do is I would just try to keep maybe 2 rounds in the magazine, so that when you see an enemy, you fire once, and then when you fire the second time, you trigger Final Round, which is going to do more damage. It's a pretty good shotgun for Crucible, definitely worth checking out if you are a fan. This week's ANTON'S Rule sidearm is definitely worth taking a look at for those of you who enjoy sidearms in the Crucible. It comes with Hot Swap, which is a great Crucible perk if you use this perk as it's intended, meaning keep your primary out, and then when you see an enemy, then switch to your secondary or special. It also comes with Snapshot, which is meh. High Caliber Rounds, which really makes this weapon special this week. High Caliber Rounds, as I said with the Palindrome, is really good to have in the Crucible because it makes your enemies stagger and flinch, and therefore makes it harder for them to aim at you. Also, we have Mulligan or Cascade. Cascade melee kills automatically reload a portion of this weapon's magazine. I would say select this on close quarters maps where you're actually going to be able to get a lot of melees, but other than that, I would definitely say stick with Mulligan to get those shots back that you miss. We also have True Sight IS, Fast Draw IS, Quick Draw IS, True Sight being the winner. Altogether, This could be a really good sidearm if you use Hot Swap the way that it is intended to use. Over at New Monarchy, you can take a look at the Free Will 3 hand cannon this week if you're a fan of the Thorn archetype. It comes with Rangefinder, Hammer Forged, Hot Swap, Armor-Piercing Rounds, and Hipfire. We also have True Sight IS, Sure Shot IS, and Quick Draw IS. These two are two of the best sights for hand cannons in the game. Sure Shot is arguably the one that's just a little bit better, but I mean, the stats on these, just go look them up, because this one is better in certain situations, and this one's better in certain situations. There's not one that just daunts over the other one. But anyway, we have a hand cannon here with really good range. These two perks right here are the reason that you want to pick this hand cannon up this week if you're a fan of this archetype. As far as your third perk, I would say Armor-Piercing Rounds or Hipfire. I mean, it just depends on your playstyle. If you like to fire from the hip a lot, then by all means select this one. If you don't, then go ahead and go with this one, although this one won't do you much justice in the Crucible. And that's probably where you're going to want to use this. This is not a good archetype for PvE, so this is going to be a PvP hand cannon. If you are a fan of the Extremophile auto rifle over at Dead Orbit, then I would highly recommend you picking the one up that they have this week, because it's about as close to a god roll as an Extremophile can get. So it comes with Hidden Hand, Small Bore, Third Eye, High Caliber Rounds, and Quick Draw. Side options, we have MD Reflex, Sure Shot IS, and OEG, Sure Shot being the winner. Now as far as perks, you definitely want to run High Caliber Rounds, Small Bore, and Hidden Hand. Now in this archetype of auto rifle, it is pretty high rate of fire, pretty low impact, but not the most extreme like the Bullet Hose archetype that we've seen. But with Hidden Hand and Sure Shot, this thing is going to have very strong target acquisition. With Small Bore, you are going to lower that magazine size just a little bit, probably down to about 33, maybe 32, something like that. But you're also getting a ton of range and stability in exchange for that decreased magazine size. And then with High Caliber Rounds added to all of that, you get just a slight bit more range, and you also get the added benefit of staggering your enemies in the Crucible. So if you're a fan of Crucible auto rifles, this one is not quite a must-own, but it's pretty damn close. As far as Extremophile perk sets go, I would rate this one about a 4 to 4.5 stars out of 5 stars. Definitely worth picking up to try. If you like using high-impact scout rifles in PvE, then you're going to want to go pick up the Keystone 01 this week over at Dead Orbit. It comes with Crowd Control, Hammer Forge, Triple Tap, High Caliber Rounds, and Snapshot, as well as MD Reflex, Range Lens, and Reflex, with Range Lens being my favorite because it's the only one that really gives you a noticeable stat increase to both stability and range. And on this, you actually do want to try to get that stability up as much as you can because the base stability on the Keystone is pretty abysmal. As far as perk options, you definitely want to run High Caliber Rounds, Triple Tap, and Crowd Control. Some of you may be tempted to use Hammer Forged. I'm going to tell you right now that on this archetype of scout rifle, the damage drop-off is so far away, you won't even notice that you have Hammer Forged on 99% of the time. So Triple Tap's definitely going to be the winner to extend that 14-round magazine. Now, I typically don't like the Keystone. I don't like its base stats. I don't like how it feels. I don't like how it looks. If I'm going to run this archetype of scout rifle, it's going to be the Cocytus SR4 from the Gunsmith. That being said, though, even me, I would pick this one up this week. High Caliber Rounds, Triple Tap, and Crowd Control. You're going to be able to do hella damage with this thing, and it's going to be very fun in PvE. Definitely recommended if you're a fan of this archetype of scout rifle. If you are in the market for a reliable PvE shotgun, then this week's Last Ditch over at Dead Orbit could be worth taking a look at. It comes with full auto, hammer forged, surrounded, flared magwell, hipfire, muzzle options of linear compensator, field choke, and aggressive ballistics. I would go ahead and stick with linear compensator because everything else lowers your stats instead of building upon them. As far as this perk slot, I would probably go with hipfire here, since hipfire is going to be a little bit better in PvE than it would in PvP. In PvE, you don't have to aim down sights like you do in Crucible. I would probably go with Hammer Forged over Surrounded here. Surrounded could be okay, but, I mean, Hammer Forged is going to be the one that you're going to use more consistently. You're not always going to have 3 enemies around you. And Full Auto is just a fun perk to have on shotgun. So if you're looking for just a workhorse shotgun that does arc damage for PvE, then this is worth picking up. But if you have better options, I would say pass on it. You're not missing on a whole lot. This is going to be just for those of you who don't have a better option. For all of you Crucible hand cannon users, I would go ahead and take a look at the whale this week over at Future War Cult. Although it does only have a 7-round magazine, it is the same archetype as Palindrome, and this week it comes with Hidden Hand, Hammer Forged, Hot Swap, Explosive Rounds, and Lightweight. We also have Steady Hand IS, Sure Shot IS, and Quick Draw IS, with Sure Shot being my favorite of the three. Combine that with Explosive Rounds, Hammer Forged, and Hidden Hand, and what you have is a hand cannon that is going to have very good target acquisition, as well as reticle stickiness, fairly decent range, and the ability to stagger enemies in the Crucible. This is going to be one that you're definitely going to want to pick up and try out, even if you're turned off by the 7-round magazine. This is, for this particular hand cannon, almost a god roll. I would say 4.5 out of 5 stars. If you are a fan of the high rate of fire, low impact pulse rifle, then you definitely need to go check out Future War Cult this week, because this week's Waltz is about as close to a god roll as you can get for this particular archetype of pulse rifle. It comes with Rangefinder, Hammer Forged, or Eye of the Storm, high caliber rounds, or lightweight, and side options we have Reflex, Quick Draw, as well as OEG Rifle Scope. Either one of these are probably going to be the better options, but I definitely wouldn't just stick with Reflex because it's the only one that doesn't give you any kind of boost to stats. High caliber rounds, Hammer Forged, and Rangefinder, you're going to have a weapon that staggers the hell out of enemies and does it from a very, very, very good distance. If you're a fan of this archetype of pulse rifle, I'm going to go ahead and say it. This is a must-have. I definitely recommend that you go buy this one right now if you are a fan of this archetype in the Crucible. Go get it. If you are looking for a workhorse rocket launcher for PvE that has tracking and does arc damage, then the disassembly required could be worth taking a look at. It comes with tracking, perfect balance, and heavy payload being the one that you want to go with. And Grenadier or Last Resort, both of these are kind of wasted perks on rocket launchers, so just pick whichever one you want. It doesn't really matter. And then over here we have Confined Launch, Smart Drift Control, and Countermass. You're going to want to go with Countermass for the boost to velocity. It does drop your blast radius just a little bit, but you're going to get it right back with heavy payload. Combine that with tracking, and you're going to have a fairly decent, but not great, rocket launcher for PvE. The only thing preventing this from being something like a god roll maybe is if maybe you had something over here like increase to velocity, or maybe, carry some more ammo or something like that. But that's the only thing separating this from a god roll rocket launcher, which is a really weird thing to say when you think about it. God roll rocket launcher, something that you don't hear very often. But nonetheless, I'm rambling. Yeah, definitely worth picking up if you need a tracking arc rocket launcher for PvE. And that is going to do it for this week, guys. As I say each and every week, it's highly recommended that you go and check out each and every one of the vendor weapons for yourself, because what I might have passed on, you might think is a god roll. It all comes down to opinion and playstyle and preference. So definitely go and check all those out, because your unicorn weapon or whatever might be sitting there waiting for you at a vendor or something. What am I talking about? Anyway, that's going to bring this video to an end, guys. If you enjoyed it, click like. If you're new to the channel, click subscribe. And if you are already subscribed, I fucking love you. Thank you for watching. And, oh, take care, guys.